Episode 123. Mid-month sleep and Field 7 tried to play the hero and rescue the damsel. Instead, the beauty ended up saving the heroes. Tianqiu scrambled to his feet, rolling and crawling, but there was no time for thanks. He continued resolute, placing himself squarely in front of Han Yanru.
You first get clear. Everyone clear out. It was Ye Xiu who shouted from this side.
The three of them were stunned, and not a single one managed to react in time. The vampire knight's cloak billowed once more, and as it settled, another swarm of bats erupted into the air. This time, all three were within the attack's range. The bats scattered, striking each of them. The damage they inflicted, however, wasn't as high as when they'd all swarmed cold mist. But this time, it was impossible to tell who would end up as the feed. Windward smoke and rain swung her hand cannon, unleashing a rapid burst of machine gun fire, a gunner's skill. He unleashed the Gatling gun, shaking the weapon as he fired. The bullets, which should have flown in a straight line, scattered in all directions. The bats were small and swift, but they swarmed in a dense, numerous mass. The spear's sweep still struck many, and all that damage would ultimately be tallied against the vampire knight. As for those three, they were utterly helpless against such a sky-filling assault. But after transforming into the swarm, it had to select a new source of blood to feed on. The attacks on Cold Mist now no longer healed him. The bat swarm's assault was swift, and its retreat was just as sudden. In a flash, they flew back and coalesced into the shape of a cloak. Ye Xiu's eyes were locked on the instantaneously formed vampire knight. The moment it made its first subtle move, he instantly knew who it was targeting. Little Yu Yu, Midnight Moon, Ye Xiu shouted urgently. Sure enough, this time it was Midnight Moon, became the vampire knight's fodder. The vampire knight took a step, ready to charge straight at him. Midnight Moth panicked and scrambled away, but his footwork was nowhere near good enough. He was about to be caught and cut down by the vampire knight in a few more steps. At the critical moment, a spear thrust out from the side, hoisting the vampire knight into the air, followed by a falling blossom palm, sent the vampire knight hurtling through the air. It was Cold Mist who struck. She was closer to moonlit slumber than Lord Grimm, and she arrived faster. Just now, having been turned into fodder, she didn't dare face the vampire knight head-on. Changru was seething with pent-up frustration. Now that the bait had become Yu Zhongmian, even if the vampire knight didn't come looking for Tangru, she's going to come after me for revenge too. Better get moving. Tangru said this to moonlit slumber, making him feel thoroughly embarrassed. But what could he do about it? Generally speaking, male players are always a bit stronger than female players, so they all acted mighty and impressive in front of the female players. But in their party, both female players were on a monster level. They were on a completely different level. In the end, it was the two male players who ended up getting all the attention, leaving Mid-Month Slumber utterly exasperated. Just then, Ye Xiu's Lord Grimm finally arrived on the scene. Windward Rain followed close behind, emerging from the chaos of the previous moment. The three experts could finally make their move together. With 11 laps of voice ID for the Ye Xiu's swift commands and the trio's flawless execution, the coordination was simply impeccable. The vampire knight was trapped, whether raising its shield, swinging its sword, or whipping its cloak. They couldn't pull off any fancy moves. Midnight Moon and Seven Fields were reduced to mere spectators, but they knew it wasn't that brother expert was denying them a chance. It was just that his current coordination with the other two was so tight, they simply couldn't find an opening to join in. It's too fast, just way too fast. Just as they were getting into the thick of the encirclement, Lord Grimm suddenly appeared at a most inopportune moment. He blasted the vampire knight out of the fray with a falling blossom palm. The vampire knight was blasted right out of the tight encirclement the three had maintained. A shame, Tianqi lamented. This was the first time he'd seen the expert brother make a mistake. But at the very moment the falling flower palm struck, Windward Rain immediately followed up with an anti-tank cannon. The 3 anti-tank shells followed one after another in rapid succession, slamming into the Vampire Knight. The blast wave erupted, combining with the force of the falling flower palm to shove the Vampire Knight back, like a flying sword. Before he could even hit the ground, the airborne Vampire Knight he'd pushed suddenly burst apart with a flurry of wings, transforming into a swarm of bats. But this time, the swarm's attack range was empty. After a moment of chaotic fluttering, he had no choice but to reform. Tianqi and Mid-Month Slumber were stunned once more. That falling blossom palm from before hadn't been a mistake at all. It was a lightning-fast maneuver, executed the moment he saw Vampire Knight start to lift his cloak. This was followed by Windward Rain's anti-tank cannon. They blasted the Vampire Knight out of the bat swarm's attack range the instant his cloak billowed. Tianqi and Yu Zhongmian weren't Tang Ru. They had long heard of this Vampire Knight's infamous reputation, and the sheer annoyance of this bat swarm attack. At level 25, the only way to block an attack like that is with a Key Master's Mind Force barrier. The only other option was to escape the attack range before the bat swarm fully activated. But this move is so fast and covers such a wide area that escaping it is far from guaranteed. But today, Ti and Yu Zhongmian witnessed the legendary solution firsthand. To blast the Vampire Knight out of the bat swarm's attack range. That was the feat they accomplished. Beyond precise judgment and lightning-fast execution, what truly mattered was their flawless synergy. The Vampire Knight didn't produce any new fodder this time, but the old fodder from before hadn't expired. But after going through that cycle, its effectiveness had diminished somewhat. But no matter how much it drops, letting the boss trade percentage for health is something we absolutely cannot allow. Ye Xiu and the other 2 had already rushed over the moment the Vampire Knight completed its fusion, immediately launching another coordinated assault. Tianqi and Yu Zhongmian continued to watch from the sidelines. Again and again, the Vampire Knight's health finally dropped to the 10% threshold. But no one was worried about his enraged state, because the vampire's frenzy after going red-blooded, the new feed it creates, it wouldn't replace the old feed that was already there. In theory, you could bite all 5 of them into feed.
So now, hitting any one of them would restore his health.
But now, with Yishu and Su Muqing pulling off moves like this, the Vampire Knight's bat swarm transformation was rendered utterly useless. This minor change in skill mechanics is nothing to worry about. The crimson-blooded Vampire Knight thrashed and roared a few more times, but finally succumbed to the trio's assault. With a heavy thud, he hit the ground, and everything he could drop was already scattered around him. Ye Xiu took a look. The crimson vampiric light sword wasn't there, but he wasn't too disappointed. That's an orange weapon that truly tests your luck. Without a level head, it's easy to start doubting your own luck and lose all hope in life.
A double purple bullet.
So Mucheng let out a surprised cry. Yishu was taken aback. Double purple drop is a term in Glory specifically referring to when a monster drops 2 purple tier items upon death. By that logic, you can call it a double blue drop, a triple purple drop, or even a quadruple orange drop. If you ever actually run into one, the odds of getting 2 purple bullets are, of course, still pretty slim. But of all the gear the Vampire Knight could drop here, 11 Laps Voices a ID da Forta Yishu only needed that vampiric light sword. As for the rest, even if it dropped 8 purple tier items, a shield and a cloak, he wasn't phased. Tianqi looked it over and said, only knights can use shields after they've changed classes. They generally have 2 basic attributes. The first is defense enhancement. The second is damage absorption, both of which boost your survivability. The Vampire Knight dropped its very own Vampire Crest shield, which boosts defense by 20%. It also has an additional effect converting 2% of damage taken into health.